The TV show where both women in a lesbian couple get pregnant at the same time and then go into labour on the same day is back. The delightful New Zealand comedy Double Parked just finished its second season. When we last saw Nat and Steph, their relationship was more or less on the rocks as they were being wheeled into the delivery room.
We'll be fine.
I just think I need you to forgive me.
So, as the finale to the first season, things weren't necessarily all rosy for them. With two newborns in the picture, how can they navigate the dicey terrain of being new mums, as well as sorting out their relationship? If you missed my review of season 1, let me just quickly recap for you. We have Nat and Steph, who have been together for 8 years and have been trying IVF for Steph with the help of a friend and flatmate Johnny to get pregnant.
Hooray!
Oh my God.
Oh no, I didn't mean hooray. I meant hooray for finding the file.
Right, yes.
When their latest attempt fails, they decide on a drunken whim to turkey-baste Nat to see if she can fall pregnant instead, and lo and behold, she does on the first try. And then they find out that Steph had given a false negative and was actually pregnant too.
Nat, I'm pregnant.
Me too.
Over the next 9 months, they worked together to get themselves ready for not one, but 2 babies, with all of their insecurities and fears rising up to the surface.
It's about the baby, it's about the friends. I feel like I am losing my grip on who you are anymore.
While they are able to navigate most of the issues, revealing a lovely bond between the women, a couple of them threaten to derail the pair. The first one is around Johnny and legalising his involvement with the kids. Steph wants it to be formalised with a contract, and Nat doesn't agree given that they've been friends forever and it feels really wrong to do so. When Steph gets Johnny to sign the contract without Nat's knowledge, it leads to a big blow-up where Steph declares that she doesn't trust Nat because she feels like Nat isn't taking this major life change seriously.
I don't trust you! There you go. Like, I am just waiting for you to show me any sort of sign that you are remotely aware of the immense responsibility that we are about to step into, but you don't!
When later that night they both go into labour, they find themselves having to put their arguments aside because the babies are coming. We pick up in season 2 a day or so after with Nat and Steph and their 2 new baby boys. Overwhelmed and Steph's accusations still hanging over them, they try to deal with the new chaos of their lives, including breastfeeding.
Do you consent to me touching your breast area?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, if you think it'll help, sure.
But I think a full boob bath just to be on the safe side.
Oh, 100%.
Sleep deprivation,
We've got to figure something out.
going back to work,
You will never understand the sacrifices that your parents made for you.
and Johnny's involvement with the kids. I found season 2 to be just as delightful as season 1. The comedy elements continued to provide a lovely, light-hearted tone for the show that I definitely appreciated.
Hey, look, I just wanted to say that I get it. Because you see, Jess and I, we hooked up once when we'd had too much Bernardino at a grammar party, so...
Oh, you mean like, you get this?
Yeah, big time.
No. This is something quite different to that. Yeah.
Or is it?
It is.
Is it though? I don't know. Agree to disagree.
It's warm and inviting with Nat and Steph and their best friends and their families there for them, giving that sense of community coming together. There are a few false steps, if you will. I did have a moment or two where the comedy didn't quite land for me, like when Nat and Steph are talking over each other to try and cover for the fact that they're not headed to the zoo. They use this tactic a couple of times, and I don't know if it was them overusing this comedic element or if it just didn't hit right, but I did get a little tinge of cringe. And as delightful as the final episode was, perhaps it was because the major resolution between Nat and Steph had been solved, so the tension was already released and didn't drive towards the conclusion as cleanly as it could have. But again, like last season, minor quibbles, overall incredibly watchable. A definite highlight of the season for me was when they go searching for some parent groups, and after finding their local meetup somewhat toxic...
And in that moment, I thought of every single possible way that I could kill him.
What?
Hit him with your car.
Ooh,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could blame it on baby brain. I heard that stands up in court, especially if you have a female judge.
They opt to go to an LGBTQ meetup where they make friends with the very cool Edie, played by actress Danielle Cormack, who you might know from when she played Gay on Wentworth, or from her work on Xena or Shortland Street, or one of the many other projects she's done. Nat and Steph are clearly quite infatuated with her.
Oh my God. She is
the coolest person.
You think I should just go after her and give her the number now? Or?
Which was just hilarious to watch as they fawned over her. And while it certainly looked like things were headed to a three-way, in the end it's like she lit a little match beneath them both and then left them to it, thus helping them to reconnect. Well, physically at least, because of course things are not totally sorted. I did appreciate that they didn't shy away from addressing the issues, however, and I'm glad that their rupture from last season wasn't glossed over, because they could have easily reverted back to them playing happy family. They used the elements from the first season, such as Steph's jealousy at how easily Nat fell pregnant after she spent so long trying, and how that upended her hopes and dreams of how the formation of their family unit would happen. Here, that theme is continued when Steph is feeling inadequate because she can't seem to provide enough milk for her kids, while Natalie seems to be having an abundance, touching on this idea of how she seems to be able to, with so little effort, do things that Steph struggles to. While some good comedy comes out of it, this thread also led to some more serious story beats, most significantly to do with Johnny as the donor. As a subplot, Johnny's relationship with Lily involved discussions around how Lily doesn't want kids, and so if he wants to stay with her, which he seems to want to, then it means accepting he'll not be having his own, which he clearly does want to have. I have to say, I appreciated how this topic was handled, as often, at least in the shows that I've watched, the narrative is always that the woman says she doesn't want the kids and then is convinced to want them. Here, Johnny doesn't try to change Lily's mind, and it was refreshing because not all women want that. I already liked him a lot. We see him being respectful of Lily's boundaries, being a wonderful support to Nat and Steph, and this merely reinforced how much I liked him. And so it looks very likely that Nat and Steph's kids will be the closest he'll get to being a father. But with the agreement signed from last year, which he was more or less guilted into by Steph's mother, and Steph blowing up at him for helping Nat out with doing a doctor checkup when one of the kids gets a rash.
He's not their parent, Nat. You're not the parent, Johnny. I'm the parent.
He's feeling sidelined, and I fully understand his reaction because, as they said,
We're saying that we want you to be involved, but we've never actually talked about what that actually looks like.
This then leads to Nat and Steph moving out of the flat and possibly destroying Nat and Johnny's lifelong relationship. All this helps frame the major conflict of the season, which is again Nat and Steph, and how they can find a middle ground with each other, because it's clear they are two very different people. Nat is pretty relaxed and easygoing, Steph is type A, needing to be in control. While their love for each other is certainly evident, as is their chemistry, the question through the season becomes, is that enough? Is their love enough to help them navigate the ways in which they are different?
How did you know that it was over with Dad?
I think we should talk.
For a hot minute there, it looked like the answer was going to be no. And I don't think this is a spoiler anyone will mind me giving. In the end, the answer was yes. But it did take Steph taking a good look at herself and recognizing the pressure she'd been putting on the relationship, and most especially the pressure she'd been putting on Nat to change.
And I hold on to life so tightly. And that has just made me into this person that I'm not. A person who made you think that you were the problem.
I wasn't sure that doing the flashback to how their love story started would be enough to resolve the central conflict, but when combined with Steph's acknowledgement that the tension between them had largely been the result of her own fears getting in the way, it felt like a satisfying resolution, because the accusation Steph had made had seemed mostly unfounded to me. Though Nat needed a bit of a prodding, she had been doing her best to step up. Imperfectly at times, but she was stepping up. It was good to see this addressed, and there is nothing I love more than some good character growth. Steph recognizing how she'd been contributing to the conflict was gratifying, and in resolving that, it also helped resolve the issue around Johnny's involvement, because her resistance to it was also coming from her insecurities, and to be honest, it felt right to have Johnny involved in the kids' lives, not only because Johnny is such a lovely man, but also grab as many capable adult hands to raise those kids, use the village. While the final episode revolving around the impromptu wedding perhaps felt a little final, having tied up the major conflicts of the show with Nat's fears and Johnny's involvement, I do hope they decide to greenlight another season, because I would be very happy to watch them continue their journey into parenthood. I'm sure much hilarity could be mined from them subdividing Lily's house to create 2 homes and dealing with 2 growing kids. If you want to watch, it's available on 3 now. Until next time, lady lovers.